Hello everyone, VanguardOfValor here, and welcome to Steredenn. So, what are we looking at here? Well, this is in, I guess, a general summation, a shmup, which is also combined with a roguelike. It is still in early access, created by Pixelnest Studio. It is pretty darn cool. Let's hop into a game here and we'll talk about it on the go. So, you do get two options for controls. You can use keyboard or you can use gamepad. I'm using a gamepad at the moment. I find it's a little bit easier to control, but I'm assuming that's up to you. An extra little thing worth noticing, though, is that while there are currently rebindable keys for the gamepad, there are not yet rebindable keys for the keyboard, although that's planned. So, our ship, the Goliath, has been taken out. We are an awesome little pixel ship, and it's time for us to go take vengeance on the pirates that did us so much harm. So hopefully we'll be able to get a nice and good adventure here so you guys can see what this is all about. So, get a classic shmup-style gameplay going on here. We have our ship, you can fly around, you shoot the bad guys, and try not to die. On that note, if you take damage in this game, the only way for you to heal is if you are able to defeat the next boss. That will restore your health. That's an interesting glitchiness there. Otherwise, you are unable to keep yourself alive. You have to keep very close attention on damage taken so that you can try and avoid it at all costs. And now we have our first secondary weapon. And our first boss fight. In Steredenn, you can have two weapons at once. You can choose which one to discard at any given time, and generally you want to pick ones that combo or complement your other ones quite nicely, so you have a range of options. These homing missiles aren't the most damaging weapon, but they're pretty good for attacking from basically anywhere, because they are, of course, homing, so that's a nice little addition to our firepower here. Whereas our blaster is just a straight shot, so if we're going wildly around the map like this, it's not super effective, but overall, this is working out pretty well so far. You can see our boss's health, not by a health bar, but by the little emotes they do, which is kind of cute. They let you know how they're feeling, and now he is feeling very dead. This is where one of the secondary roguelite elements comes in as well. We have access now to 5 upgrade choices. We can absorb lasers temporarily. Collisions deal less damage. We can keep shooting after we swap weapons. We can have weapons break enemy shields or take a flat score boost. I think we're going to have avoiding lasers temporarily. That was pretty nice. Gives us a little red shield bubble that allows us to absorb solid red beam lasers so that we don't take constant damage by touching them. And now we are in a junkyard. This might be bad for us, but we're going to do our best to survive this mess. It's just going to take a whole lot of firepower to even be able to start firing through this thing, and there are enemies already charging us down here. Thankfully, it looks like this is going to be done before too long, but this is not a healthy situation for us. There's just all kinds of debris sitting around here. Nasty little environment. As you can see on the right, we're currently getting a score bonus from the battlefield that we were in, all these bits of wrecked ships. We do want to try and find a better weapon soon, though, because right now our weapon choices are not the strongest, unfortunately. And here is another frigate here to give us that chance. Please have something interesting, and we have a plasma gun. Now this is a fun weapon. This is a laser weapon, which has a recharge potential. Let's also switch and grab the sawtooth. That's also a very silly weapon. But the cool thing about this is, as you can see just below our health bar, there's a bar that's indicating the charge of the plasma. As it runs down, it will eventually run out of charge like it just did and stop firing. But if you are able to keep it just above that point, then it does incredibly increase fire rate, which is actually really useful. We're already at our next boss, so let's do some battling here. I think we're going to go for the plasma gun for the most part in this fight. That's probably the most damage we could possibly be outputting here, as long as we don't accidentally overcharge it again. And we'll see if we can't take this guy down with too much trouble. Now, there's a couple other interesting things about this game, like the fact that the bosses, in some cases, are actually randomly generated. The first several bosses, the first 3 I think, all have alternative boss fights you can do, which just sort of change up the patterns and attacks that the boss uses, which is a kind of interesting way of doing things. Now, where we're standing right now is mostly safe, but evidently not completely safe. And while taking damage against the boss at this point isn't terrible, he's almost dead already. There we go. It does reduce our score multiplier, so if we're trying to do as well as we can, which you probably are if you're playing a shmup, then you want to try and avoid taking unnecessary damage if at all possible. Now, what else do we want to get? Let's go for some more shield-type power-ups. We can grab ourselves the ability to generate a shield around ourselves that will absorb an attack while not firing, so that's a really useful thing to have. You do have to not fire for a long time to get it, though, so it's of questionable value in some cases. You can see it around us now. We have both of our shields. Unfortunately, these enemies also have shields. They can be a bit of a problem for us if we're not ready for them. Hopefully, we'll be able to take them down. Ooh. There's our shield absorbing some damage for us that we otherwise probably could have absorbed ourselves if I had been a little bit more quick off the mark. But as it worked out, we didn't take any damage anyway, so I can hardly complain. That time we did, though. No good at all. Now, there's a couple ways you can build up your combo multiplier. If you succeed a wave, generally that'll give you something. If you can complete a wave while completing a secondary objective, that'll help you out as well. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. Another shotgun instead of the saw. Somewhat more reliable weapon. That should help us out a little bit here. Oh boy. Gotta be careful. We don't want to take any more unnecessary damage than we already have. Whew. And there's also special objectives. In the bottom right there you can see it says Destroy Wave. So if we can kill all the enemies in the wave, we get an additional bonus to our multiplier. Sometimes it'll say simply Survive or Dodge Wave. That means don't take any damage for an additional multiplier, and there's similar other little extra objectives which can be really useful to giving yourself the biggest score possible. Ooh boy. Now, okay, we're making our way through here. We're on our third boss, or veteran. I like how the bosses all have their own little call-out kind of deals, which is kind of cute. Those are also randomly generated from a list, I believe, which is pretty neat. So you can get some different ones as you play through. It's not always the same, which is a really nice thing. Also, this is a subjective thing for sure, but I really like the soundtrack to this game. It's pretty solid, and I also really like the art style. The pixel art they use in here is really nice. Gotta try to avoid taking unnecessary damage, though, because right now I'm not doing the best at my dodging. Not doing the best at my dodging at all. Alright, so these bosses vary, like we mentioned earlier. This one is going to do a big nasty beam attack at us. We might be able to survive it by using our shield. Oh, nope. Didn't avoid damage quite as much as I would have hoped there, but we'll deal with it. He's dying anyway, so we should be able to take him down without too much more trouble. Unfortunately, just because he's dying doesn't mean he's dead yet, but there he goes. Fantastic. Okay. There's another boss out the way. I love the explosion effect. So satisfying. And there you go. We see we've healed up again. So, from these options, I don't know really what we want, but I think I'll grab myself a weapons reload faster. I'm not going for score attacks yet. I still am nowhere near beating this game. So I'll just take the things that make me more powerful, thank you very much, especially since we're using the plasma, which is a really long reload after you, if you made the mistake. So we're in a pretty heavy asteroid field here. That's giving us a 20% score bonus while we're still in this area, which is nice. Uh-oh. Oh, that was a bad place to be sitting. Thankfully, those guys blew themselves up. These are new enemies I've never seen before. That's somewhat concerning. I don't actually know what these guys' deal is. I guess they just have turrets on them that fire in different directions. Interesting. We are currently nearing the edge of my experience with this game. I've only gotten to the next boss once. Stasis bots. I'm going to hold on to our current setup of weapons for now, but I'll show you what these do. They're really interesting because they fire particle attacks that slow down enemies, which is really interesting. On one hand, though, they don't do a whole lot of damage, so if you're relying on them as your main source of firepower, or an alternative source of firepower if you're reloading a long recharge weapon, might not be the best option for you. Whew. As you can see, there's a lot on screen. There's a lot of attacks that come at you. It's not crazy like some of the Mugen-style really heavy shoot-em-ups, but it's still pretty intense for somebody like me, who's generally not great at the genre, but who enjoys it. It's still quite a challenge. Oh boy. Just barely avoided damage there. Thank goodness. Alright, let's try and clear out the rest of these jokers, and see if we can't make it to the next boss, which I believe is right up ahead. Yes, it is. Now, this is one I've not beaten before. The Hug Maker, Cruiser Mark I. A nasty, heavy, powerful weapon. We'll see if we can maybe beat it, though, and get further than we ever have. Oh, that's a bad start. Well, recording this, that would be fun. But this is definitely a challenging boss fight. Of course, there are much more challenging boss fights to come, but for now, this one is giving me a hard time, so I shouldn't say too much bad about it. Okay. Thankfully, with some careful avoidance, you can often avoid a lot of this damage. But we're going to have to do our best here to not take anything else, because things are pretty challenging here. You can stand in between these lasers and not take any damage, which is a really nice thing. But they will follow up with a shotgun blast afterwards. We got to be a little bit careful about it. We're doing okay here, though, so far. We've only gotten hit a little bit. So far, we're not doing too badly. That regenerate a little bit. Oh, he just changed style there, so he stopped his own bullets. That's always nice. We might actually be able to take him down this time. This is looking pretty good, actually. Hey, that looks good. Is he dead, or is he just changing forms? Oh, we've just broken some of his turrets, so he's using different attacks now. Somewhat unpredictable ones as well. Interesting. But yeah, this game is really interesting. It's really fun. It's really satisfying. The guns feel good for the most part. There's a couple of them that are a little bit less than stellar. But we did it. Awesome. We're breaking new ground here, folks. I've never been this far before. Alright, what new upgrades do we have access to? Nothing super exceptional, but I will just take a flat damage upgrade for now. That'll have to do. And we'll see what else happens here in our one experimental run here through Steredenn, so you guys can see what it's all about. I do really enjoy this game, though. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of nasty debris flying at us, though, as well as enemies and missiles and all kinds of shenanigans. Oh, there's some damage for us. It's kind of hard to see what's going on here, honestly, because there's so much debris on screen. But I'm sure once we make a bit of progress here, clear some of it out, it'll be a little bit easier to manage. There we go. Already much better. Got rid of most of the debris on screen. Now we can mostly see clearly, although there are lots of baddies coming our way. This is unpleasant. Somehow, I don't think we're going to make it much further in this stage, but we're going to do our best. We've still got a bunch of health left. Maybe we'll be able to make it to the next boss before we die horribly. Never seen them before, so I have no idea what their patterns are going to be like. So our chances of success are not phenomenal, but we'll do what we can here. Some crazy stuff happening on screen. Enemies defending each other, big lasers coming in from the bottom and the top. Just general unpleasantness, but we'll see what we can do here. Really, a really solid and enjoyable gameplay experience, though. That's the big thing for me to take away from this, is that it's just really enjoyable. It's just solid. Boomerang I will leave. I'm not super experienced with that weapon yet, and I have a hard time using it properly as of yet. I do like these cruiser-type enemies, though. They're pretty nasty. Haven't seen them prior to this difficulty. Alright. We've got some shockwave guys that'll clear our attacks off the screen if we don't kill them quickly, so we're definitely going to go for them first. Because they're going to make our lives pretty difficult otherwise. Some more asteroids, some more cruisers, all kinds of nasty firepower coming our way. But overall, this is actually pretty manageable, which is nice. See if we can't kill these guys before things get way out of hand, though. We've got a big laser boss up the top there. He'll be a problem, probably, but looking like we're doing okay here, actually. We're keeping up with the enemies reasonably well. They're starting to overrun us a little bit, which we've got to be careful of, but overall, this is looking pretty good. You see what I mean? This game is pretty neat. If this kind of combat and wow, okay, that's pretty sweet. If this kind of combat and setup looks good to you, I'm sure you'll enjoy Steredenn. And here's a new boss I've never seen before, Carrier Mark 1. Oh, he's spawning things and firing cool projectiles and just generally being a nuisance. That is a wall of... oh wow, it's actually a wall of lasers. We have to break that down before we can hit him, and he's spawning enemies the whole time. That is some nastiness. Yeah, we may not be super well equipped to deal with this guy, but we'll see about it. That is a lot of enemies and stuff on screen. Holy cow. Okay. Ow. Ow. We're taking damage here, folks. We're taking damage. We're hurting. Something tells me we're not going to be doing this too well here. Try and clear some of these enormous waves of enemies and put some pressure back on the boss again, because we need to be hurting him. We're not doing that enough right now. We really need to control those spawn waves, because if we can do that, he can't do too much to us. Oh, he's got beam bots in the back now. That's nasty. Uh-oh. Wow, okay, this is getting out of control. And that is how the cookie crumbles. So, that is a quick look at the gameplay side of Steredenn, but there's a couple other things to look at too. We'll hop over here. There's a high scoreboard currently, which is really cool. Shows you how you're doing overall against all other players of the game. Currently, we're in 92nd. That's pretty cool. You can see how other people on your friends list, for example, are competing. Turns out I don't have many friends that play this game, but still, you know, it's a neat little feature if you're trying to do score attack, which is probably a thing that you're interested in if you like these kinds of games. And there's a couple other interesting features we're going to look at before we end the video here. Other interesting things about Steredenn. Specifically, there is a daily run challenge, which you probably saw at the start. So if you really want that, you know, concrete one-shot challenge, there's that in this game, as well as an arena mode. Now, I wasn't expecting this, but this is actually a way for you to practice fighting bosses that you've previously defeated, which is really cool. So say we wanted to practice fighting a variation of the first level boss. We could pick him here, and we could choose which weapons we want to use against him. So let's take a combination that involves... Ooh, I don't know. Let's take... Ooh, that's not what I meant to do. Well, we started accidentally with no special weapons, so we're going to do it with just the blaster. Alright, that gives us an extra challenge here. No bonus weapons, we just have the basic firepower. But this way, if you want to try and practice a boss, so they're giving you a hard time, you only manage to beat them once, you can practice them, so you can learn their patterns a little bit better, smoothen up your fights. It also shows you a time, so you can try and improve your speed. It gives you a bonus for not taking damage. It tracks the amount of health you have at the end, as well as also giving you a check mark for beating the game with only one weapon, or beating the boss rather with only one weapon, or beating the boss with two weapons. So there we go. That's one of our first bosses beaten with just the blaster in 30 seconds. So we get our 10 out of 10 HP, our 30-second time, and we get marked off as having one weapon. So that's a cool little feature there if you're interested in trying to actually beat it without having a whole lot of other options. So there we see. Completed one time weapon, or rather, completed with one weapon, yes, with 30 seconds as our fastest time. So it's kind of cool. There's all kinds of little interesting things there. There's also a super play option, which I haven't accessed yet because I haven't been able to beat the game yet, but it's overall pretty solid. As far as if you're interested about this kind of stuff, we do have sound and music sliders. We do have the ability to turn off the in-game HUD. We have the ability to deal with the flashing when injured, vibration on the gamepad. You can map controls for the gamepad, but not for the keyboard. And you have graphics options that are pretty limited. But overall, with a pixelated game like this, you don't really need that much more. One thing I will tell you to watch out for is this music slider defaults to 100 for some reason at the moment, even after you set it down. So it's pretty loud right now, and it's already much quieter. So yeah, that's a weird thing. I'm not entirely sure why that happens. It might even just be a visual thing, but it always sounds like the music's loud when I come back, even after setting it to 50. So that's something to watch out for. But overall, you probably have enough information by now to see if Steredenn is right for you. I think it's pretty cool. It's a really interesting and solid entry into the sort of shmup genre with a cool roguelike element. I love the graphics. I love the sound. It's looking really cool. I can't wait to see what else they added to it before Early Access is done, even though it is only a month away. There might not be a lot more features coming, but it's pretty solid as it is. It's a really fun, really enjoyable gameplay experience. So if that looks like it's right up your alley, don't forget to check it out. There will be a link in the description below if it interests you. For now, though, this is it. This has been Vanguard of Valor, and welcome to Steredenn.